Hey everyone, Whitney here with a quick message from the sponsor of this video, Green Mountain Services. Join us for the 6th annual Cerebral Palsy Conference on October 1st and 2nd, 2021. This is a virtual event that can be attended by the comfort of your own home. There will be 2 days of networking, sessions, and high-quality award-winning speakers. Registration is free. Go to cerebralpalsyconference.org for more information. Providing cerebral palsy advocates, an event for networking and education. Hope to see you there. Hey guys, this is Whitney and welcome back to an episode of Spastic Chatter. Spastic Chatter is a platform meant to feature those in the cerebral palsy community, and I get together weekly with individuals with CP, like myself, to have an uncensored chat, if you will, about what it's like living with this type of disability. And for this week, I have Cody, and he is, and just from his Instagram bio, because you know I took to Instagram, guys. That's one of the things that's one of my go-to places to find people. His Instagram bio says that he's a Paralympian and he just wrote a children's book. So we are gonna dive all into the story of Cody, and I'll let him introduce himself before we get into the topic. So take it away, Cody.
Thanks, Whitney. Yeah, Instagram's fun. So I was a 2016 U.S. Paralympian, Team USA. I got to throw the javelin, and I still do. Missed out on Tokyo, and I just wrote a book called Henry Makes It on Top. I could talk for hours on that, but Whitney, do you have any kind of direction you want to go with the conversation?
Well, you brought up a good point before this, is that your cerebral palsy is not like as prominent as like it's not as severe. So the one question that I always ask, it tends to be my question that I lead off of, is can you like describe your childhood growing with CP? When I get asked that question, I'm like, it was just a normal childhood, but people always have different answers. So was your childhood any different growing up with CP?
No. So for me, my CP is left hemiplegic. It affects my left side, but I'm on the more mild end. I wasn't diagnosed till I was about a year old. And then after that, that's when my parents just put me in physical therapy. And that was the only, I guess, different thing, is I had to go to the, occupational therapist, physical therapist a couple times a week till I was about 7 or 8. But I enjoyed that. It got me used to talking with adults and being exposed to a lot of people and interacting. I got to play too. As a kid, you always like playing. And it helped me play baseball growing up. I learned how to play baseball one-handed. You might read other people with cerebral palsy or amputees learning how to play baseball. And I did that. Did that about, I would say, 20 years ago is when I learned how to play baseball one-handed. Just kind of fun.
I have a story for this. Okay, so my family was very we're very sports oriented. So I have 3 other siblings, and then I have a twin. So I was always like the designated bat girl growing up, when they would play softball and baseball. But for t-ball and a little bit for t-ball, I was able to play with everyone because I would hit the tee and they'd push me around the bases. But I kind of have a similarity to you, because for coach pitch, I could swing the bat one-handed with my good hand, and it's funny. Instead of using a metal bat, like an aluminum bat, every once in a while they let me break out the wiffle ball And
No
because
way.
that's the only path that I could lift. So
Yeah.
they would break out
Yeah.
whenever at the end of the game or whatever, like they'd break out the whooping ball and the bat and let me like hit it and run around the bases. So that was a good memory from my childhood to made me think of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you still a fan of baseball? Are you a baseball fan?
Like I
Yeah.
don't
Who's
like
your
I don't like what before you ask, like I don't watch any baseball, but like I don't watch it on TV or anything, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's in the Olympics this year. You should watch the Olympics one.
it
Softball did pretty good. Yeah.
is. That's
It's in the
awesome.
Olympics.
That's
We need a
awesome.
Paralympic baseball team though. We need
Yeah,
Paralympic baseball. Softball. I don't
I think that's one sport that people don't realize that like it is it is there are like adaptive leagues out there like
yeah.
they like
Yeah. I have trouble finding adaptive leagues that I fit into because like I mentioned, my cerebral palsy is minimal. So I competed in, well, I don't know the proper PC term, but like like I was with everyone else growing up in like the regular quote unquote I hate using that word, but leagues, and then I made my high school team. So I wasn't on any. I didn't know there was adaptive leagues or sports until I was 17 years old. I knew of the Challenger division, which that's what it's called in my hometown, and that was for people that it was awesome league, but it wasn't for me. It was more of a come and enjoy, and we're all just gonna
yeah,
be together, and have a good time. Whereas I wanted to compete, even
yeah,
with a disability. And so I had trouble finding a place where I fit in. And it's like I'm disabled, so I'm still not fully able-bodied, but I'm like not as disabled for some of these organizations and groups, I guess.
yeah,
And I found out about the Paralympics when I was 17 years old, that I found my place, my home, and it was random how I found it. So in high school, I don't know how much about my story you know, Whitney. And feel free to stop me if I'm going to talk too long. But so I did my whole baseball one hand glove flip stuff. Really cool. You can find it on YouTube as a baseball player that offers inspiration by the LA Times. So that YouTube article or the YouTube video and article associated with it was randomly discovered by the head coach of the Paralympic track and field team for the U.S., Kathy Sellers. And she reached out to my coach and told me about the Paralympics. If it wasn't for her, I would never have found like my spot in competitive adaptive sports, elite level stuff. And then that's when I started throwing the javelin in college, because it was my senior year of high school. The next year I went to, Cal Lutheran, a private school in my area, and was allowed onto the team, not knowing if I'd score any points for NCAA, not knowing anything, because again, like it's a unique situation, I guess.
yeah.
And I eventually broke the American record a couple of times, got on the national team in 2015, went to World Championships, and then 2016. A long story, and if you want to hear it, I could tell it. But I eventually got to go to Rio, so that's kind of my adaptive sports journey started randomly. And the point of all this story, I want to kind of get at, I'm glad you have this platform, is that it shouldn't be random. If people just want, what was that?
I was agreeing with you. It should not be random.
Yeah, it should be every doctor's office, every whatever, a list of all the different adaptive sports there are. Like there's organizations all over, and they just need awareness. And then there's the Paralympics, which is worldwide,
Yeah.
but there's still people in this country who have no idea what it is. And it's like it's the second largest sporting event in the world. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
They associate it like I'm like no shade. I'm not PC. I'm not
yeah,
PC. I like they associate the Paralympics with the Special Olympics, and that is two
Hmm.
two different like
Two separate
totally
things.
different things. Like yeah. So
Yeah.
hearing about your story, correct me if I'm wrong. You started throwing the javelin like with able body, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was on my college team, and for the first year, I didn't score any points because in the Paralympics, there's a chance you're throwing a different weight if for track and field for the field events for throwing than the NCAA, like the men and women's standards. So the first season, I was throwing the women's weight because that's what I thought I was going to throw in the Paralympics. Because there's different classifications, right? So just because you have cerebral palsy doesn't mean you're competing against everyone else with cerebral palsy. It's based on how affected you are. And I wasn't classified yet. And I thought I'd be a 37, which is like mid-range. 38 is only like one limb affected with CP or something. And I have two. I have half my body. I was a definition of a 37. So I thought I'd be throwing the 600. Turns out they classed me as higher functioning as a 38. So then I had to switch over to the heavier, bigger men's 800 javelin. And once I did that, I was able to attempt to score points against my able-bodied counterparts at college. I think I only did that once, but still, it was great practice, and everyone I competed against in college was amazing. So
That's
no
awesome.
there.
Can you like walk me through the process of like the Paralympics? So the lady like reached out to you, and so you participated on in your college. How did that translate to the Paralympics? Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, excellent question. Excellent question. So for track, it's all sports specific, I guess, because the Paralympics houses a lot of sports. But for track and field, if you make certain standards, you get invited to certain teams, essentially. And so the track meets have to be approved and meet certain standards. And so I got my college track meets approved so that my throws counted. And so I'd throw at the meets that counted, and there was other ones too that were already pre-approved. And then if I hit a certain standard, I'd be invited to certain things. Like my first standard I hit, I was allowed to go to the Olympic Training Center for like a training camp to work with those coaches. And then there's National B Team Standard, which you get paid a little bit less than National Team A, but you're still like top of the top. And National Team A Standard is top 3 in the world based on previous marks. So if you hit that, you're doing pretty good. And yeah, so those are all kind of the standards. And then to make certain big meets, like for world championships or for the Paralympics, you know, Tokyo's happening a little bit, and then Rio in 2016, you have trials. Just like there's the Olympic trials that are pretty popular, you have Paralympic trials. And so it's one meet to decide if you make the team or not. If you throw it far and you do well based on your standard, then you have a good chance of making the team. But if you don't, then you don't. Now, to clarify even further real quick, so because there's so many different classifications in track and field and so many different events, it's not like the Olympic trials where the top 2 or 3 men and women each get to go for each event. We would have way too many athletes. We're not allocated that many spots. What happens is we have, remember, the A standard. So say I throw the A standard, that's 100% of the A standard. That is really good. But say I only throw 90% of the standard, that means anyone else in any other event, all the other men, I'm essentially competing against all the runners, all the jumpers from all different classifications. Depending on how they do on their standard, that's who makes the team. So it's percentage of A standard who makes the team. And so the people going now are top 3 in the world for sure, that for going for the track and field team. Hopefully that made sense. I didn't just.
Yes, it made sense. 'Cause I was about to ask how many people like you competed against, but you kind of answered that. So,
Yeah. So I'm the only F-38 javelin thrower. I'm one of the few actually ambulatory javelin throwers for the U.S. There's about a good competitive group around the world of about 10 to 12 of us, but the U.S. Hopefully more people want to throw the javelin here in your podcast. So
that's
it's
awesome.
not a popular sport, but it's so much fun. It's a giant spear.
Yeah.
If I clarify earlier, it's a giant spear. You get to just launch it. There's ambulatory.
I'm gonna see. When I think of a chaplain, and I might sound really dumb right now, but I kind of think of Matilda. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what a lot of people know it from, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah. So yeah, I throw what they do in Matilda.
It's funny. So, do you want to talk about like your Rio experience really fast? Like how?
Yeah. So Rio, that making the team was a crazy experience. So I mentioned tryouts, right? We had trials in 2016 in North Carolina, and I'm ranked top 10 in the world. You know, best in the U.S., whatnot. But like you have to bring it at trials, and I didn't fully bring it. I only hit 90 to 92% of standard, which, you know, in a test, that's an A. But to make the team, you have to be closer to 96 or above. And 96 isn't even a guarantee. So, like, nothing's guaranteed. So 92%, I was, like, really nervous. And I was like, there's a small chance I'm on the bubble. And it turns out when they named the team a couple of days later, my name wasn't mentioned. So I didn't make it. I didn't make the team. And so for a couple of months, I was healing from an injury. I bleached my hair yellow. If you find pictures of me in Rio, it looks yellow. And you might be like, Cody, how did you get to go to Rio? You just said you didn't make the team. This is the crazy part. So 10 days before opening ceremony, stuff like that, about 2 weeks before, I don't know the exact days, but anyway, I get a phone call from the same coach, Coach Kathy, that told me about the javelin. She was still the director at the time, and she said, Cody, Russia screwed up the doping scandal, gave us 7 more track and field spots. Do you want to be one of 7 athletes added to the team? Your plane's going to leave in 10 days. This was my senior year of college. I was just about ready to start. I had to email all my professors real quick saying, sorry, I'm missing a couple of weeks of school. Promise I want to do this class. It was great. It was a whirlwind because, you know, the other athletes, they had months to prepare and to celebrate. I had 10 days until I went to athlete processing. So a little bit of insight that maybe not a lot of people know is that before athletes go to the games, they spend about a day or two in like a different hotel or whatnot in the States to get all their gear and stuff ready to go, to get all the media stuff like checked off the list. So I went to Houston for a day, and it hit me. I'm like, man, this is a big deal. When we had a police escort to the airport, and I think maybe even from the airport, I'm not sure. Like I got picked up. It was crazy. I was like, what's going on? And that's when we got like all the Nike stuff. Ralph Lauren. I got a really cool watch. Like that, it was so much stuff. And I say this humbly, like I'm not like prideful. Like I'm grateful. There's so much stuff that they literally tell you just to pack toiletries and socks and underwear essentially for your games experience, because you're going to get so much stuff. And then they even have a spot for you to send a package home, because you don't need everything in the village. And so then I get to go to Rio after that, and it was incredible. Okay, I was still like on that adrenaline high of making the team. I recognize it was a blessing, right? Everything worked out for a reason. God has a plan, and I'm supposed to be there, I guess. And opening ceremony, it was incredible. Have you gotten to watch any opening ceremonies of the Olympics? Yeah. Normally I'm on the couch eating potato chips, watching our flag walk across the stadium. I was behind it. Like I was behind the flag. I wasn't holding it, but like, yeah, I was close to the front. I purposely tried getting close to the front. And you could see me if you like search up the thing. It's a long event, but you wait for the US. You could see my blonde hair a couple of times on screen. My parents saw it on TV. I was like, this is incredible. I was crying like half the time. It was so fun competing. Awesome group of guys I got to compete against. The village, incredible to see the whole world in like one area. Like I know it's not the whole world, but pretty much the whole world. And yeah, the coolest thing to mix like my real life with my real life was I still had college homework. And yeah, I still had to do homework, right? And there were a lot of other athletes there that still do homework or do stuff for their jobs. And part of my homework, I had a global ethics class. And that class was talking about, a lot of it was talking about like refugees and stuff like that. And what's crazy is that there were some athletes from some of the countries that I was learning about. And that just stuck with me. I was like, no way. Like,
That's really cool.
yeah. And then afterward, all Team USA was invited to the White House. And at the time it was Obama and then VP Biden. So I got to meet them, which is really cool.
Very cool. I bet I'm going, like, you said so much, but like going to.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It was like you have like an awesome story, but I bet you are so grateful for that coach that reached out to you and told you about the chaplain and then invited you to the Rio. Like
100% grateful. Kathy Sellers has changed so many lives. My baseball coach, all of my coaches have, and we've mentioned it earlier. Maybe this is like the main theme of adaptive sports shouldn't be random for any athlete with a disability that wants to compete. It should be known in every household that is an option. Just like kids know that there's Little League, there's soccer, it should be known that there's adaptive sports.
Like like touching on that, like when I was growing up, like we kind of mentioned like the Special Olympics and like things like that. But and again, this is my opinion. This is not everybody's opinion. You see like these viral videos going around of like people of like kids with disabilities like playing sports, and like that shouldn't be as like as like I call like inspiration porn. That it shouldn't be as like I don't know.
No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be rare. Sorry, what was that, Wendy?
I don't know how to put it without coming off offensive, but like that should not be like that should be normal.
Normalized. Yeah, it shouldn't be rare. It shouldn't be rare. And I think, no, I struggle with that whole inspiration thing, to be honest. And I think everyone has different opinions, because I do catch that people are like, oh, they're so inspirational. And I'm like,
how are they like,
they're just living their life, right? I've heard stories. Some of my teammates, they're like, I was just, using my wheelchair in the grocery store, and people are like, oh, you're so inspirational. They're like, I'm buying a can of soup. Like, what do you mean? Like, stop it. But yeah, for me though, the reason why I say I'm torn is because I think anyone like alive, like disabled or not, I think we should use our gifts or our life to somehow inspire other people. Like, I think we should all, able-bodied, disabled, whatever the terms you use, I think we're all supposed to encourage and inspire other people. So it's like, I'm going to live my life. Don't treat me as just a source of inspiration, but I also feel like I'm called to inspire people, because I think we're supposed to. Does that make any sense?
And I totally feel the same way. What I like to say is, don't tell me like it's cool if I inspire you, but what does that inspiration do? I'd rather you say that I motivated you to do so and so then
Yes.
just saying that I inspire you. Like follow that inspiration with action. Like
So good.
don't like saying that I inspired you. Those are just words. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's good. And sometimes when you follow up with that question, it's a little cringeworthy. You could be like, "Oh, what inspired you?" And then if they're like, "Oh, the fact that like your life seems so hard, but yet you smile," and then I'm like, "Wait a second, what do you mean my life is hard or horrible?" It's like I love my body, I love my life. What are you doing, making me feel worse about my life if you keep trying? So some people like think people with disabilities have horrible lives, and it's like, oh, we could live awesome lives, you know?
yeah. One statement that bugs the crap out of me, and like I get it often because my cerebral palsy is like more severe.
Yeah.
It's on the more severe side, but I'm totally independent. Like I do everything on my own, and people like they'll come up like in conversation, like we'll just be talking, and then all of a sudden they say, "Winnie, I don't know how you live like." I don't know how you live like that. Like I don't know how you live like this. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know any different. This is my normal. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're like, you want me to show you how I brush my teeth, how I put on my pants? Like, what do you,
You're like
yeah.
everything just seems so hard for you, and I'm like, well, I don't know. This isn't like I don't know how to answer that. Like I don't. It's just weird.
Yeah, you're like, it's my life. I love it. It's good. Got
Yeah,
normal life challenges just like everyone does, you know?
yeah. So what one other huge thing that I want to talk about is kind of getting away from the Paralympian side of you. You just wrote a children's book, so do you want to talk about that?
Thank you. Yeah, it's called Henry Makes It on Top. And look, he's got a wheelchair. So I didn't define what disability he has. So that way, you know, people can use their imagination. But so it's a fun, silly, but um, like a correct way of teaching kids about disabilities. And I'm biased because I wrote it. But so it's a fun, silly way. Henry, who has a disability, has to find a way to join his class on a mountain. They went on a field trip to meet the magical Mr. Goat. He was late because he slept in, because I think we all do. And so he finds fun, silly ways to try to get up the mountain. Like I think you see, like he tries like a ramp and balloons, and so kids love it. And it's available on Amazon if you want, and 10% or a small portion, whatever. I haven't fully decided. I might do more. Goes to Angel City Sports, which is an adaptive sports clinic that is local and that helps me out and helps a lot of kids and adults with CP and other disabilities learn about adaptive sports. So it's really cool to support. So the story behind this, if you want to hear how I wrote it, so I was at the Olympic Training Center last year when COVID hit, and you were telling me before, you know, we started the podcast that you started this during COVID, right? You started your podcast during COVID, right? So there are some good things to come out of COVID. Yeah. This book is one of them. So that COVID, when the Olympic Training Center basically got shut down, I was there. I was told to quarantine. I was exposed. I didn't end up getting it. And then at the gym, nothing was available. Basically, food was being brought to me, and that was it. So I was watching a ton of Netflix. Okay, a ton. Too much. I don't know if you've ever been there when you get through a season a day and what am I doing with my life? That was me. Okay, totally relatable, hopefully, to a lot of people. And I decided to do something productive. And 5 hours one day, I wrote a book. It's not long. It's like 24 pages, but it rhymes and it's purposeful and what it is. And that's when I wrote it. It took me a little bit to find the illustrator. And then when I went back home and I found an illustrator at a church I help out with. He was in the high school group. He is autistic and deaf, and his talent for illustration is incredible. He was showing me some of his class artwork projects for a kid's book, and I was like, dude, you're my guy. Do you want paid like for a thing? So I paid him. He did it, and it's awesome. It's a cool like just community. So it's a book about disabilities written and illustrated by people with disabilities.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, similar to what your podcast is doing, is that this provides a little bit more, I guess, awareness, representation, and is a resource for people that don't have a disability, you know, so they can learn and picture, because the mountain is an obvious metaphor that you could use as a talking point for kids and that adults will get right away. You know, mountain as an obstacle. Because we were mentioning earlier that, yeah, we're disabled, but we live normal lives. But there are also obstacles and challenges that people with disabilities tend to face, you know? And so the mountain is an easy symbol for that. So a lot of, what is it? Is it metaphors? Is that the right word? Similes? I don't know. It's a good book. It's a good book. And you guys should pick it up. Yeah.
I like how it's very authentic. Like it's written by someone with a disability. The illustrations from somebody with disability. So like it's very. So have you? Is that what you said that you before this that you were also a motivational speaker? Is that one of your? Is your book like one of your main talking points when you do motivational speaking? And of course, you're Paralympian and all that. Like,
so the book just came out a couple of months ago. Even so, like I said, I was trying to find an illustrator for a long time, and then once I did, it took a little bit. So it came out a couple months ago, and I haven't had too many speaking engagements since, because you know people are starting it out. So I have to like update my talk, which I'm excited about, because this is just another resource. Typically, it was just my life story that I could hopefully share life lessons to other people with, saying, hey, I'm not perfect, but here's what I found through my life. Let it be an example. I typically talk about the sports and all that fun stuff, because it's like everyone's story is unique. You know, my other teammates, their story is different than mine. I was hearing some of them, and like they like had trouble in high school. I enjoyed all sorts of other stuff, and so we're all different. And so I love sharing unique stories to impact the stories of kids. But now I wrote a story, so hopefully it will be updated. It will.
I'll put the link for your book in the description so people can check it out.
Appreciate that.
So, every episode at the end of every episode, getting tongue-tied, I always ask my guests if they have any advice for others that are like going through similar situations as themselves. So, Cody, do you have any advice for people who might be watching this?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you my talk in like 20 seconds. This is what I tell the kids, and the adults love it too. Here are my 3 keys to success. You know, there are others, but it's trust your team. Sometimes when life is hard, we feel alone, and we fail to recognize we do have a team. There's so many people out there that do care about you. The second thing is, in order to succeed, you have to define the win, meaning you have to write down what your goal is. I wrote down Rio. I told my friends, and for 3 years, every day, I was doing something to get better. I'm not perfect. You know, there were some days I missed, but typically that's what you do. You write down your goal. And the third and my favorite, and you might say something similar in your talk, Whitney. I'm not sure. I would love to hear it sometime, your motivational speaking. But my third one that I love and the kids love is you live like you can. You have to. Because I tell the kids sometimes our brains are our worst enemies, and we need to help turn our brains into our best friend. Meaning, you know, we all think thoughts, regardless of physical or mental ability. We all think thoughts of like other people are stronger than me, prettier, more popular, richer, whatever. You know, they're doing better in school. They're doing better at my job. And so we have to start like changing the question, meaning we have to ask, instead of what if things could go wrong, we ask what if things could go right. It's the same question.
Exactly.
One answer is a lot more fun to imagine. One leads to despair, that what if everything goes wrong, that leads to more worry, but what if everything goes right is still a valid question, and it's a fun one to imagine. You don't have to fully answer the question, but it just puts you in a better headspace when you frame life that way. Hopefully I didn't talk too long on that, but
No, you did not. That was perfect. Where can people follow you on social media?
yeah, Cody Michael USA on Instagram and Facebook, mainly Instagram. And then I have a website with all of my other info, CodyMichaelJones.com. That's where you can learn about my public speaking, and I got to hook up the book to the website, but yeah, the book is on Amazon.
I'll put all of that in the description below. And thank you, Cody, for agreeing to be on an episode of Spastic Chatter. I really enjoyed talking with you. And if you're watching this and you want to be on an episode, just reach out to me wherever you see this video. Comment. There's a form in the description if you want to be formal and fill it out. And check back next week for another episode. Thanks. Bye.